I always knew my dad wouldn't take it well, but I guess there's a difference between expecting something and actually standing there while it happens. Because when I finally told him it wasn't dramatic or anything, just a quiet, I'm seeing someone, followed by, he's a guy. And for a second, he didn't even react, just kept looking at me like he was waiting for a punchline that never came. And then he laughed, short and sharp, like I'd just said something ridiculous, and went, "Stop messing around." And I shook my head and said, "I'm not." And that's when his expression changed, not confused anymore, just hard, like a door slamming shut. And he asked, "Since when?" And I said, "Does it matter?" Which was apparently the wrong answer because he immediately snapped back, "Yeah, it does, because I didn't raise you like that." And I remember just standing there thinking, like, what does that even mean? Like that, like it's something you can teach or fix. And I tried to keep my voice steady when I said, "You raised me to be honest." But he didn't like that either. He just scoffed and started pacing like he needed to burn off the anger, muttering things about phases and influence and how I was throwing my life away. And I could feel my hands shaking, but I forced myself not to back down because I'd already spent too long pretending to be someone I wasn't. And finally I said, "I'm still the same person." And he stopped pacing just to look at me and say, colder than anything else he'd said, "No, you're not." And that one line hit harder than all the yelling combined because it meant he wasn't even trying to understand. He'd already decided who I was in his head, and anything that didn't fit that just didn't count. And there was this long silence where neither of us said anything, and I realized I was waiting, stupidly, for him to change his mind, to say something that would fix it. But instead he just shook his head and said, "If you're going to keep living like this, don't expect me to support it." And I swallowed, because part of me wanted to argue, to fight, to make him see, but another part of me was just tired, so I nodded slowly and said, "I wasn't asking you to." And for a second I thought that was it, that I'd just walk out and that would be the end of it, until he added, almost like an afterthought, "Then don't come back here with him." And I paused at the doorway, hand on the frame, realizing that this wasn't just about disagreement. It was about being told that the person I cared about most wasn't even allowed to exist in my life around him. And I took a breath before saying, without turning around, "If you can't accept him, then you're choosing not to accept me." And I didn't wait for a response after that. I just walked out. Because some things, once they're said, don't leave room for anything else.